April the 10th, the last day of the week, Good Friday. So happy Easter to those folks who will be celebrating Easter on Sunday, and happy Passover to those who are of the Jewish faith, getting over the indigestion from the two Seders. And I have to say that I enjoyed one last evening with family and friends, and it was delightful. We do this every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday night at 8 o'clock, and I enjoy doing it because I get a chance to explain to whoever may be listening to this program that the misinformation, the disinformation, and the omissions of the American public never fails to amaze me. And it goes on and on and on and on and on. I thought with the advent of computers and information that the intelligence of the American public would change a little bit. Unfortunately, I have been deceived by the fact that people now live by sound bites and information that was explained to me many years ago about computers. And that is that if you put garbage in, you're going to get garbage out. And so what, in my opinion, computer information has done was sophisticated the recycling of garbage, namely information, and made it legitimate and put it into computers, because the same garbage that I grew up with, which was misinformation and disinformation, is now into the computers, but it's the same garbage. Before I get on my tirade this evening, today was a unique day in the history of Catholicism. On Good Friday, a funeral mass is never said. However, because of the tragedy in Italy, the Pope had a funeral mass for those 200 and some folks who died in the Italian earthquake. And of course, we all send our sympathies. But where was God? Christopher Hitchens, a pronounced atheist, in his new book, brings the whole discussion of this omnipotent being called God into light. His arguments as to why there is no God is as flawed as those people who believe there is one. And it is a matter of listening to the debate between Christopher Hitchens and his brother on the existence of God and others that he appears all over the country promoting his book, debating with people. And the idiocy of it is, ladies and gentlemen, I learned this a long time ago from a learned rabbi who taught me for my bar mitzvah when I was 13. Don't ever try to argue faith. Oh, you can argue fact. You can debate information. You can interpret the printed word. But don't ever try to debate fact. You can't debate faith. If someone has faith in something, there is no debate. And yet Christopher Hitchens, an author, publisher, is going around debating faith with people who have faith, who are as dumb as he is, trying to debate whether their faith is right or his faith is right. Neither one being able to prove either fact. You can't prove there is a God, and you can't prove there isn't one. There is no proof. At least man has never discovered the proof. Oh, you can make certain claims and certain charges. There's no proof. So I've never gotten involved in debating faith. I've debated realism. I won't go into it because it's Good Friday, but for those of you who have listened to me over the years, I have many questions of the realism of religion, not the faith. I can't debate your faith and you can't debate mine, and I don't intend to. But I will debate the realism that you try to take as faith and make it fact. Or I will try, which I've never done in years, take my faith and make it fact, although I've got more facts on my side. We're broadcasting from irvhomer.com. My website is www.irvhomer.com. My email address is evilerv@irvhomer.com. RGH Computer Services for your computer needs and setting up this program in your own office. All you have to do is give them a call at 215-322-8685, 215-322-8685. It almost feels, ladies and gentlemen, of my experience in the broadcasting industry and in doing this Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, that it is an effort in futility. And all of the cliches that I grew up with, and some of you have grown up with, that the more things change, the more they remain the same. Or if you make mistakes over and over and over again, you're going to get the same results over and over and over again. And it is more true in my life today than ever before. I remember interviewing a former KGB agent who in my library I have his book. And it is entitled New Lies for Old Lies. And what we're getting today from around the world and in America are new lies for old lies, based on the principle of misinformation and disinformation, known as fact, put forth as fact, when it is misinformation, and sometimes with intent to be disinformation. But if you go back and research things a little bit in depth, Ron, can you close that door in the living room, between the living room and the kitchen, please? I'm getting the feedback. The television's fine in there, but it's just giving me a little problem. So what's important, ladies and gentlemen, is distinguish between disinformation, misinformation, and new lies for old lies. And I'll be specific in why I say there is misinformation, disinformation, and ignorance. One of the things that I pick up today is the lack of transparency in the banking industry. And the Obama administration said that the one thing his administration will have is transparency. Got to have transparency. Means the public has a right to know. And so the mark-to-market issue has come up, and many people believe that this is something new. Going back to 1980, when I became aware of a private information source of the banking industry, I became aware of a company called Veribank, Veribank. Veribank means the verification of your bank. They do the transparency investigation for you. You subscribe to their service. It's a private company. And you can get information on the assets of any particular bank, where they have their investments, where they take the depositors' money, whether there is a mark-to-market bookkeeping plan. And many of my listeners subscribed. In fact, I received a very complimentary letter around 1981, 1982 from the president of the company, stating that I was the only person in the media that ever mentioned their company. And I responded by saying I thought it was my responsibility to let my listeners know where their money is and whether it's safe or not. Now, if I think correctly, 1980 was like 29 years ago, when the transparency of the banking industry was available to the masses. And now tonight, just about 10 minutes ago, Lou Dobbs has this brilliant panel on of Robert Zimmerman and two other guys. They're talking about the lack of transparency in the banking industry and that the Barack Obama administration is leery and not fulfilling his obligation as the president. I don't know whether they get angry. I don't know whether they feel remorseful. And I just feel like the song from Hello Dolly, Before the Parade Passes By. Remember that song? Listen to the words of it sometime. Because the parade has passed these people by. Don't know anything about the fact. How do you verify where your money is in a bank? Well, for 29 years I've been telling my listeners how to verify their bank. And so this is one of the frustrating points, along with the concept of socialism. I am so tired. I've gone through the Nazism period in America. I've gone through the fascism theory of America. Now, we don't have communism anymore. But we got socialism. And it boggles my mind to the point where I said to one of my producers yesterday, when he said, Irv, he said, isn't the Obama administration socialist? Rush Limbaugh said it. Michael Medved said it. All the other guys on radio saying socialism. I said, well, let me ask you a question, young man. People in socialist Russia work, yeah. They get paid, yeah. They take that money and they pay for their utilities and their rent, yeah. They buy their food with it. Mm-hmm. Well, I said, well, you work here at the radio station. Yeah, you get paid. Yeah. Pay your rent, your apartment. Yeah. Buy your food. Yeah. Well, if they do the same thing in Russia and you do the same thing here in America, how come there is socialism and here it's capitalism? Think about it, ladies and gentlemen. Under Nazism, it was the same thing. Whether you believe it or not, there is private enterprise in Russia. That's right, private enterprise. Business people in Russia. They advertise on Russian television doing commercials. People own their homes in Russia. They work for a living in Russia. They save their money. They have retirement in Russia, in this socialist country. And we do the same thing here in America. So let me ask you, the few who are trying to learn something, the very limited, small audience that we have, what is the difference between working in Russia and getting paid in a socialist country, as the misinformation boys put out, and America, where you work and you get paid and you pay for your bills? You buy a car in Russia with money. You pay for the gasoline in that car as you do here. They have credit in socialist Russia. And we'll use Russia as an example because I've heard Sweden and Denmark and Scandinavia and every other country is socialist. We'll do the same thing. We all work, we all get paid, we all buy things, we consume things, and we own things. So what is the difference? But the bloviators will make you believe that we're going socialist. Not that they're going capitalist, but we're going socialist. You see. And so maybe some of you who have the desire to educate yourself will learn from the Socialist Workers' Party or the Socialist Labor Party in America the idea of socialism is. And one of the books that I suggest you reading, which is very simple to read, is called Looking Backward by Edward Bellamy, that explains socialism, although he never referred to it as socialism. You see, Edward Bellamy was the uncle of Ralph Bellamy, the movie actor, and he was a Presbyterian minister, clergyman. And if you read that short book called Looking Backward, you will understand what socialism is. I've said this many times, maybe you never heard it, maybe you just thought it was fun. But the biggest socialist program in America, you know what it is? Let me throw it out for a question on the telephone at 215-253-8877. Let me put the burden on you, as I did with my listeners today. 215-253-8877 is the phone number. Or get on the chat room and tell me what you think socialism is. And I pointed out of working in Russia and working here. You own things in Russia, you own things here. Buy a car in Russia, buy a car here. Go on vacation in Russia, go on vacation here. Raise your family in Russia, raise your family here. But they're socialists. Well, what is the difference? I doubt very much whether I'll get any response. I am appalled with the audience that I have in commercial radio, as I am appalled sometimes doing this program. I found the only redeeming quality of doing this program Monday, Wednesday, and Friday night is the fact that I hear this program on the radio 2 days later. Now, I don't know whether it's a conspiracy or not. I really don't think so. But I know that the assignment of some of the producers of the commercial talk stations are assigned to go to my archive if they can't listen to the program. And I hear what I said 2 days later. Maybe the influence eventually will gradually get through the masses as far as what socialism is. Things I'm appalled at. One is the ignorance of the fact that you can have transparency in your bank. Two, the lack of information on socialism or what it is. So what is the biggest thing that we have in America that's socialist? We've got one on the chat room called Social Security. No, that's not it. Social Security's got nothing to do with socialism any more than the title of the Soviet Union was the Soviet Socialist Republic of the Soviet Union. That wasn't socialist. It wasn't Social Security. So what is the biggest thing in America that is, by definition, of the learned people of the Socialist Labor Party and of Edward Bellamy, the socialists? What is there, 50 people watching this program? 20 people? 10 people?
50.
5? 50 people?
50.
Means how many? 50 people watching this program right now, according to our indication that none of you know what socialism is in America? You hear it every day if you listen to talk radio, if you watch the news, you hear socialism, socialism, socialism. You don't know what it is. Mind-boggling. Mind-boggling to me, but also frustrating. I don't know how many men or women listening to the program have ever been through a military debriefing. And if you don't, I will tell you what a military debriefing is. That is to the time that I'm aware of what military debriefing is. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Irv, is the answer to your question FDIC?
No, sir. Nope. Thank you. Good guess, but wrong. Quite all right. So far we've had Social Security as being socialist and the FDIC. No, neither one. Biggest socialist thing in America. What is it, ladies and gentlemen? We have 15 viewers. Nobody knows?
Oh,
Huh?
well, I think we have an answer, and I'm going to put it up here.
Welfare?
That's the thing?
Wrong.
No, that wasn't my answer.
Okay. Welfare is not socialism. The biggest socialist... See, they want you to believe, these bloviators, that Social Security is socialism, that the FDIC, the Federal Deposit Insurance Company, is socialism, and that welfare is socialism, so that they can attack faith, not fact. We'll get to the telephone and get to the website or the chat room in just a moment.
Here's another...
So let me go. That answer is right. And now, if the person is listening who put that answer up, explain.
People.
Pardon?
We have 3 people that answered that.
All right. Well, explain your position, if you can, if you will. I'd appreciate it. But let me go back to the military debriefing. And the military debriefing is that when you're engaged in the combat and you manage to survive and you get back to your organizational headquarters, you are then debriefed as to what you went through, what you saw, what uniform did you see, what kind of weapons were in the battle, what type of weapons were used, the length of battle, the age of the combatants, all the information that you could possibly have. We have today, because of these pirates that are off the coast of Somalia, latrine generals is what we used to refer to them. Those who sit on the toilet and move their bowels and knew how to fight the battle or the mission that we flew. Well, I have heard more latrine generals on how to solve this problem with these pirates in the last 3 days than I've ever heard in 18 months of flying missions and flying in combat. I have never heard. And the boobus Americans listen and they come and they respond to it. As I said, I thought the age of computerization and technological information would be a benefit. But it is so mind-boggling. So don't pay attention to the latrine generals. Talk to those professionals who have been involved in hostage situations. And this is not an isolated incident, this pirate affair. These pirates in Somalia are holding right now, as we speak, 170 other hostages from around the world. But these bloviators, these windbags, these latrine generals won't tell you that. There's about 30 ships that they still have commandeered and will not release them. one idiot today. They ought to drop leaflets on those 4 terrorists, those 4 pirates, give them 24 hours, or we're going to shoot the lifeboat and maybe kill the captain. That'll teach them a lesson. I mean, the idiocy of these latrine generals, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know where they come from and where they get the audience to listen to that dribble. Let me go to our chat room, ladies and gentlemen. Irv, I heard today that the Obama administration is planning another wave of stimulus. They believe that if FDR would have just spent more, he would have spent our way to an economic turnaround. I think this is madness. What do you think, Sal from Langhorne? Well, once again, Sal, it is the ignorance of the masses who think that FDR, with the New Deal, got us out of the Depression. The truth of what got us out of the Depression was World War II that took 10 million unemployed people and put them in the army, therefore eliminating unemployment. Now, what the Obama administration is saying behind the scenes, Sal, is as long as the stimulus package is spent for the betterment of Americans, to turn around the economy, they will be successful where Franklin Delano Roosevelt failed. Now, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, if you take a look at the money that was appropriated under the Roosevelt administration in spending millions and millions of dollars, was to pump up the people who were buying our goods and services, because we were a leading exporter of goods and services, but our industries were stagnant because the rest of the world couldn't buy our products. And so the concept was that if we loan money and spend money with our foreign neighbors who are doing business with us, our economy will pick up. And it did to a certain degree, plus the fact that he created jobs in America. We had the WPA, which was the Works Progress Administration, which built highways and roads. Parvin State Park in Vineland, New Jersey was built by the CCC, the Civilian Conservation Corps. Well, we have the Peace Corps and we have other organizations that were instituted under the Kennedy administration that takes unemployed young people and gives them a government job. So it's not a new concept. The Obama administration is saying this: we're not giving that money overseas. We're giving it to our own banks here. We are going to create jobs here. We are going to subsidize the automobile industry here. The problem, Sal, with spending that money and the way they're doing it with the stimulus package is that if they're propping up the automobile industry and there are no jobs to buy the cars, what good is it? Instead of the 3 corporations going bankrupt, because there's plenty of cars in America, they're making more cars with less jobs, so that there'll be more cars sitting on the lots, and if people aren't working and can't pay the mortgage, they're not going to buy the car anyway. So what the hell's the sense in buying a car? This is the stupidity of this administration. You've got to create jobs to give people money to buy the cars that are already here. But their attitude is, as long as we give the money to the American people, that'll stimulate the economy. Not going to stimulate anything. It was $250 stimulus package is not going to buy a Chrysler, not going to buy a General Motors car, it's not going to buy a Ford. Now you've got these bubbleheads who are ideologues who don't know how to count 1 and 1 meaning 2. We've discussed this before, that we must get rid of the lawyers in government and put in accountants who are fiscally responsible that know how the hell to act. These people don't know how to act. And so this is going to be a blunder of pumping up an economy that needs jobs. And I don't mean government jobs. I mean private corporations that have left this country. But I will go through it once again, ladies and gentlemen. Boycott foreign manufactured goods. April 15th is coming up, and they've got this fake, phony Tea Party that these conservatives are talking about on radio. If we had a one-day movement in America, led by someone, I'm too old, but if I was on major market radio, I would do it with the permission of management, which I doubt what I would ever get. I would boycott anything that is not made in America. Period. Will you go tell Boobus America, my dear friend Sal, not to buy a Chinese washing machine or Mixmaster or shoes where they just recalled 200,000 pair of women's shoes? You go tell Boobus America that they are signing their own death warrant by buying goods that's made in China. You go tell them that, Sal. Stand outside of Walmart with a sign. What the hell are you buying stuff made in China when you should buy America? Go ahead and say it. Don't think you're crazy. The American people, as Khrushchev said many years ago, he said, I'll give you enough rope and you'll hang yourself. The American people are hanging themselves. Don't blame Barack Obama. Don't blame George Bush. Don't blame Bill Clinton. The American people sat idly by after Khrushchev said that and watched American industry leave the United States. And as long as the government said, we'll give you money for your kid to go to school, don't worry about it. We'll give you college loans and grants. If you're a small business, we'll loan you money with the Small Business Administration. We'll give you credit cards. You're making $30,000 a year. We'll give you a credit card where you can spend $10,000 limit. Don't worry about it. Don't look at American industry and your job leaving America. Look at what we're going to do for you. And so Boobus America took the rope that Khrushchev gave you and hung themselves. Don't blame the rest of the world, Sal, for the stupidity of the American people. Don't blame the drug dealer for selling drugs. Blame the guy who buys the drugs. Don't blame McDonald's for selling fast food that's going to make you fat. Blame yourself for eating that slop. Blame yourself for drinking Coca-Cola that is a narcotic when it first came on the market. Blame yourself. We talk about assuming and taking responsibility. Well, let's take responsibility for ourselves. Let's stop buying foreign goods. Let's create jobs here and making our own television sets, make our own automobiles, make our own radios, make our own dishwashers, make our own things. Let's boycott Walmart and not buy anything that they import from China. We're our own worst enemy. Don't yell at the cop who stops you in a DUI and locks you up because you're drunk. Blame yourself. You drank the slop that the state sold you. Until the American people assume their responsibility for themselves, we'll blame the rest of the world for everything. We'll blame Obama, we'll blame Bush, we'll blame this, we'll blame everybody. We are our own worst enemy, the American people. And if the American unions, the American labor movement, screamed bloody murder when they saw industry leaving America, shipyards, steel industry, clothing industry, refrigeration, television, washer, dryers, when they saw that hosiery mills leaving America, if the American stupid idiots would have said, wait a minute, there used to be the Apex Hosiery Company here making stockings. What am I doing buying stockings from China? from Taiwan? Why am I buying Italian shoes? Don't we have shoemakers in America? Why were we buying Russian tractors? America has a big... Farmers in America buy Russian tractors. The Belarus tractor is one of the best tractors made for bad soil. So don't blame everybody else. Blame ourselves. We're going to put guys on the border against drugs and put an army down there. What makes you think the army isn't going to become drug addicts? When the American people assume their responsibility that they're stupid in going to a casino and losing their Social Security check under the guise, well, if we gamble, we're going to have a reduction in our real estate taxes. So the enemy is not from without. The enemy is from right here in the continental limits of the United States. And until we stop blaming the rest of the world for our drug addiction, for our financial crisis, for the wars we get involved in, we deserve what we get. And the ignorance of the American people and America's foreign policy that created the 9/11, that created 5 guys to kill almost 4,000 people. It was not their fault. I almost sound like Ward Churchill. It was our fault because we were playing games with Saudi Arabia, which is a fundamentalist, miserable dictatorship that was concerned about them being overthrown. Let me give you a classic news release that I thought was just unbelievable from the governor of the state of Pennsylvania. Then we'll get to the busy chat room. This is about the possibility, ladies and gentlemen, of table games, or rather, the introduction of table games into the casinos in Pennsylvania. This is not an anti-gambling dissertation here. But this is what the governor says to a guy by the name of Neil Bloom of Sugar House, whose partner happens to be Daniel Keating III. You know who Daniel Keating III is, ladies and gentlemen? One of the biggest builders in industrial construction on the East Coast. Well, politically connected. Lawyer Richard A. Sprague. Richard A. Sprague was former tough guy, first assistant district attorney under Senator Arlen Specter when he was DA, and who was representing Vince Fumo at his initial trial, and then Vince Fumo and him were close buddies, and then fell apart. He's an investor in the casino, a lawyer. A former state Supreme Court Justice William Lamb, who now didn't suck enough money from the political machine while he was a judge, but now is going to suck it out of the sucker who gambles. And Robert Patankin, a business entrepreneur, who's an automobile dealer, but he's a businessman, and I don't blame you. Take money where you can get it. Now, Bill DeWeese has introduced in the House legislature to allow table games in all Pennsylvania casinos. And the governor assured him and other investors that the table game legislation will pass before the Sugar House facility with 1,500 slots will be up and running. Confirmation that we're going to get table games. But it goes better than that. When asked what changed his mind on table games, the governor said, quote, "It's simple mathematics. Over 50% of our gaming patrons," let me change the wording. It's a simple mathematics. Over 50% of our gambling patrons are seniors, mostly women over the age of 80. So how much gambling will they be doing in the next 10 to 20 years? The old farts will die, right? So the governor realizes that. Now listen to this. We cannot afford to have our younger male population leaving here to go gamble on table games at our bordering states. So all you young men out there, the governor of Pennsylvania wants you to gamble in our casinos because the old fogies are going to die. So get out there, young male population, and gamble. Forget your mortgage, forget your kids, forget your wife, forget your car payments, forget your credit card bills. Go gamble, you younger male population. The governor wants you to do it. Don't anybody read these things except me? The governor acknowledged, we're speaking about Governor Rendell, the governor acknowledged that there has been strong opposition towards table game legislation in the House and the Senate. He said, quote, "It's all been taken care of." And when asked how he accomplished that, the governor replied, quote, "I gave them a comp they couldn't refuse." Now, unless I'm wrong somewhere, I believe America was built on the theory there's no such thing as a free lunch. Right? You work hard. You don't want nothing for nothing. We're strong. We have the great Judeo-Christian work ethic. But the governor here says, let's give them a free lunch because them suckers will take it. We'll comp them with the buffet. We'll comp them with a room overnight. We'll comp them with free booze. And then uses the statement from the mob by giving them an offer they couldn't refuse. And Boobus America is going to buy this, get the table games. The governor wants you young men to go in there and lose your money so that maybe your parents will get a $250 house rebate from this benevolent governor we have. Don't you see how they manipulate? Do you think that anybody would ever have the nerve to read this on a commercial radio station in Philadelphia? Do you think that on that sports station that is geared toward the younger male population, that fake phony crazy in the morning on WIP would tell his younger male audience, you got to get to the casinos and gamble on the table games because your mom, who is 60 or 80, may be dying off and there won't be enough money in the slot machines? You think Cataldi or any of them guys on that sports station will tell their young male audience that? I didn't say it, the governor said it. Irv, another blast from the past, is coming back. The special drawing rights known as SDR, a financial instrument invented by the International Monetary Fund, used to supplant the currencies of the world. It helps to promote the establishment of one world order, possibly socialistic in nature. Oh man, you are so wrong. I will explain it again. We do have right now SDRs, the special drawing rights, were established so you can do business around the world with different currencies. Now let's assume, ladies and gentlemen, that Pennsylvania had one type of currency, New York had another type of currency, Ohio had another type of currency, Delaware had another type of currency, and we all wanted to do business between the 50 states, and they all had different currencies. How in the hell would we ever do any business? Let's say the state of Delaware had Delacare, which is a Delacare. We have Pensicare here. Well, how much is a Pensicare worth in Delacare? Well, it all depends how much the New York car matches the Virginia car. So we've established a federal SDR called the Federal Reserve Bank, where all currency in the 50 states are worth the same value depending upon the cost of living in those states. Well, the IMF with SDRs does the same thing. It expedites international trade by saying that smaller countries can borrow SDRs, have special drawing rights so that they equalize and stabilize the exchange of goods and services through all the countries. Nothing socialist about it. From a basic standpoint, socialist government usually run key industries. In terms of services, medical is free as well as higher education. Wrong. That's not socialism. See, this is the misinformation, folks, comes out. Our next comment, a friend of mine that I did the show Kings with from Canada, and he said, "Why are you, the USA, so afraid of calling yourself socialist? You already are, you just don't know it yet." Tim from New York. First of all, there's no socialism in Canada. And there certainly isn't any here. So I hate to tell you, but your friend in Canada don't know any more than you do. Why doesn't the government require welfare recipients to work on basic labor issues, roads, parks, etc.? Well, that's what Franklin Roosevelt did at one time. But we've established a society now, my dear friend, and we have a new phrase which I can never figure out called the working poor. What the hell's the sense in working if you're going to remain poor? So if you work and you do an honest day's work, you should be entitled to be able to live in a house that you can afford, an apartment you can afford, buy food that you can afford, and therefore you won't be poor. So they established lines of credit to make you go in debt. And you have unions. Unions will not allow construction work unless it's unionized. So the worker that is on welfare will have to join the union, or at least get union wages, so they make a living and work on the roads. But let me go back a little bit to my age-old history. In Philadelphia, when I was growing up, there was a prison on State Road called Holmesburg Prison, in which there was a population of about 600 at the time incarcerated. Holmesburg Prison is no longer there. It's now a new prison they built. They had their own farm. They grew their own fruits and vegetables. They had a dairy farm where they had their own animals, where they had their own milk, had their own beef, slaughtered the cattle, had sheep, had chickens. The prisoners were almost self-sustaining. They had their own clothing shops. They had their own shoe shop at Holmesburg Prison. They were a self-sustaining entity right in Holmesburg Prison and the land surrounding it. But some two-bit politician got the idea, you know, if I went into business with my brother-in-law and I got elected, we would turn that over to private enterprise. So they shut down the farm, they shut down the dairy, they shut down the clothing shop in the prison, they shut down the shoe shop, they shut down the self-sustaining electrical shop, and they hired private outside contractors. Private outside contractors now supply the prisoners who sit on their ass and do nothing. Now, if you want to get those things, like Sheriff Joe Arpaio does down in Arizona, who's catching hell for it, nonviolent status offenders. You know what a status offender is? I think I'm going to have to explain it. People who don't break laws of violent crime, but they break a traffic DUI. They broke some law. They didn't do any personal harm to you as an individual. But they broke a statute, some law, some misdemeanor crime, something. They're status offenders. They're not violent people. They use it with a pen. They do stuff. Write a bad check, maybe. Maybe not sign an IRS form. Take all those people and put them back and have self-sustaining prisons again. We got 2 million people in prison. What do we need private contractors to make their clothes for? What do we need private contractors for? To grow food. Have their own dairy farms. Teach them a skill. Prisoners sit locked up. They play basketball and exercise. You see them. Did you ever see a prisoner hoeing a ground and making a farm? Milking a cow? Slaughtering beef? Making clothes? What do you see in the prisons? Working out. Hump, 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 hump. People come up. They play basketball. Watch television. Private enterprise at work. Irv, tune in a little before 8 p.m. to NGN 23. Their lottery commercial shows all the people the New Jersey Lottery help. Veterans, old people, students, disabled. There's only one problem with that statement, and I know about this business. The people it helps are the people who bought the lottery tickets. Who the hell do you think buys the lottery tickets except old fart veterans, old people, students looking for something, and disabled hoping to win the lottery? What the hell's wrong with you people? Don't you dummies know that someone has to lose so that someone wins? And if you take a look at the suckers who lose compared to the people who win, the ratio there, the proportionality, goes to skimming to the state through the bureaucratic BS that finally dribbles down where the elderly and the old people get a little bit, a few bucks, and they thank the lottery for my medical care. They thank the lottery for this. You don't know how the hell money works. I said the casinos in Atlantic City in the month of March took in $314 million. 1 month. You think Martians came and gambled $314 million, you numbnut? Somebody had to lose $314 million so the state of New Jersey could give money back to the old folks and to the veterans. Jesus Christ. While the president of the casinos lives in Las Vegas in a multi-million-dollar mansion so your old poor grandmother can get her prescription drugs maybe a couple bucks cheaper. Got me a break. I got to get out of this business. You want to know why we get the politicians we get? These people vote. There's that controversial sheriff in Arizona that are doing things like that with prisoners there. He even got control of the animal control department, trains the prisoner care for the prisoner, get line for that program. Of course. It's Joe Arpaio, who I've interviewed a long time ago. Most prisoners want to be productive. They're willing to work. I've been in the prisons. I visited them. Spoke to these people. You should go into some of the prisons and see some of the skills that these guys have. Musicians. Some of these prisons, through the good time that they give, are permitted to have their own bands. Symphony orchestras, some of them have. The instruments are provided by their relatives or their loved ones because they're not permitted to provide them by the prison administration, and they don't keep those instruments. They must give them back again because of the potential of making weapons out of them. So we don't have a bunch of stupid people in prison. The talent that's in some of our prisons is unbelievable. Some of the talent that's outside of the prisons scare me more than some of the talent that's inside our prisons. On the chat room, we have room for more. Either we have the worst people in the world, the U.S., or our justice system is broken. No, our justice systems are broken. The mentality of the masses, as indicated by my radio program, and what I do here now, is what's broken. The brain of the American people is broken. There you go, blaming it on the government, blaming it on the justice system, blaming it on this. I guarantee you the guy that just sent me that chat room, if he gets a traffic ticket, his ass is going to be to his politician to get that traffic ticket fixed as soon as possible. But this guy believes in law and order. I'm going to do something one of these days. He's going to do something funny. Walk into a traffic court, regardless of what traffic court it is, and hear the bullshit. I had to go to the bathroom. I had to go to my wife's room. I had to go to this. I was in traffic court where a young man was brought in there for a speeding ticket. And his father was with him. Nice young man. Good family. Father was with him. See the caliber of the young man. Made a mistake. Everybody's going to, hit that gas pedal every once in a while. No big deal. We all do it. I do it. Difference is sometimes I never got caught. No, I did get caught once on a Pennsylvania Turnpike. My son was with me. State trooper stopped me. That's another story. I'll say that one day. He's laughing. He's sitting here right now. I was only doing 90. Speed limit was 55. I don't know what he was all that upset about. However, that being said, the young man, the officer was there. The young man explained to the judge what happened. The officer said, that's why I gave him a ticket. And the judge said, well, I can see the caliber of your dad, your demeanor, young man, the way you're dressed, your presentation in court. He said, I'm going to waive the fine with just a warning. And the father said, Your Honor, can I make a statement? Judge said, certainly. I'd appreciate it if you made him pay the fine. Judge was kind of bewildered. Why? I want him to assume the responsibility that he can't get away with it. I may save his life by making him pay the fine out of his allowance. And I would appreciate, Your Honor, if you would understand my position. The judge was flabbergasted. The rest of the court was flabbergasted. The police officer shook the young man's hand and his father. That young man's life was probably saved by his father, who said, take the responsibility, son, because you were wrong. The drug user whose parents are screaming about the drug dealer, the alcoholic that screams about the liquor, the gambling addict, the guy that's out of work, it's your fault. Because you sat on your behind and you watched America industry disappear. On the chat room, the state lottery sends us taxpayers coupons to gamble. Printed on the back, it says, you have a gambling problem, call the hotline. What a joke. They're telling you simply, you're right, dear responder. They're telling you that if you're dumb enough to get addicted, we're going to have a hotline for you to tell you not to be stupid. If you think you're going to get something for nothing by gambling, you're not. I think Merkel, who was the Prime Minister of Germany when Barack Obama was there, when Barack Obama was talking about the economic problem we have in the United States, she referred to our economic mentality as casino finances. We are gambling nuts in America, wanting something for nothing. And as long as the government in all the states that have lotteries and all the states that have casinos know that you, Mr. and Mrs. America, want something for nothing, they're going to give you all you want, and you're going to pay for it because you pay for the lottery, you pay for the gambling casinos, you pay for the alcohol, you pay for the drugs. And they're going to give you all of that because you want it. Well, nobody answered my question as to what is the real socialism in America. And I'm really proud of all of you. I am so proud of all of you people who probably during the day listen to Rush Bullshit Limbaugh and Sean Insanity and Giordano and the other nitwits on commercial radio today. Because none of you know what socialism is, and neither do they. The biggest socialism in America, I'll tell you Monday. Have a good weekend and a very good Easter. I'm Irv Homer. See you then.